to everyone here waiting for the satellite event from Argentina. We're currently experiencing some technical difficulties, so we're going to be live any second now. Thank you for waiting. Um, we are going to start with Carlo Vázquez in our talk about how FIFA opened the minds of mainstream here in Argentina to start thinking about video games and sports as something related. Then we're going to have a talk in journalism, gaming journalism, the monopoly of male perspective. So we'll be right any second now. We're going to try to solve these technical difficulties and we'll be right back. Hey, thank you for waiting, guys. Welcome to this first satellite event from Argentina. My name is Stephanie Zuccarelli. I'm a gaming journalist from Argentina, and I'm very glad to present you this first keynote with Carolo Vázquez, who is an influencer and content creator. We're going to talk about women in esports, how FIFA opened the doors so major football leagues started promoting them. This is something that I wanted to talk about since ages. We announced that we were going to have subtitles in English because, well, we are from Argentina and we might not be that comprehensible, but well, we're going to do that in the next opportunity, so don't worry about them. I hope you enjoy this keynote and remember to leave your questions in the Women in Games event or in the comments down below. So let's start. Thanks everyone for tuning in this beautiful conversation that we are going to have with Carolo Vázquez. She's a content creator, influencer specialized in FIFA and representation, LGBT representation in video games. She's also a creative copywriter. How are you doing, Carolo?
Fine, I'm fine. I'm nervous because my English is eh, so, but fine. How are you?
I'm also nervous, but I think that we are going to add subtitles in the case that you're hearing us and you think, okay, what are these two Argentinian women talking about? There are going to be some subtitles there. So this talk, this keynote, it's about women in esports, how FIFA opened the door so major football leagues started promoting them, which is something that is a very interesting phenomenon here in Argentina because people has always played FIFA, but it's not related to the term of gaming. They don't
Mm.
identify themselves as gamers. Neither, neither men or women. They just play. And whenever you try to ask them, okay, so you're a gamer, they just immediately say, no, 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 that's something specialized. This is not gaming. This is just FIFA, which is pretty funny, right? So tell me, Carolo, how does the mainstream in Argentina usually perceive gamers in general?
Well, I think mainstream people tend to see gamers as very shy and introvert people, sort of like the geek stereotype. But nowadays, that is changing due to Twitch, that allows gamers, geek people, and people in general to turn on a camera and show themselves like they really are. So, gamers are fun, talkative, and interesting people as people in general. So, people who play FIFA, they are gamers too.
Yeah, and we are, well, I think the pandemic has thrown lots of football players into streaming. And nowadays, some players can see their favorite football players to be gamers and
Yeah.
to talk and to be like a normal person, which is relatable. How did you think about specializing in communicating about video games and also FIFA?
Well, in my case, I've always been a gamer and I've always loved football since I was a little girl. So when I in 2018, I was working as a creative copywriter in advertisement agency, and every day after work, I went home and played FIFA for hours. One day, I discovered that there weren't any YouTube videos in Spanish about FIFA where I can see a female YouTuber. So I decided to become the first one here in Argentina. And I invited some football players, family football players from Argentina, to play with me and talk. Meanwhile, we play a match in FIFA.
What was their reaction when you say, okay, come on here in my studio, let's play some FIFA?
Great idea. Awesome. I would love to play with you and talk about female football here in Argentina because there is no professional football nowadays. There is a kind of professional football, but then it wasn't. So they love to talk about how they started playing football, and I love to talk about how I started playing FIFA. So it was like both worlds being complete.
Like they clash a little bit. It's very strange because here in Argentina we have female football players since, I think, well, even representation since Mexico 78, but they are not professional. And as you said, there are lots of, from the government, I think there's lots of different types of normatives that are starting to promote professionalization in this area, which is very sad because football is an Argentinian classic. But well, 2021 might be the year where we can start considering female football players just football players, and we can start making them like any other football match.
Nowadays you can watch any match from this female tournament. Every Sunday you can watch a match from the tournament, but years ago you can't. You If you want to know how your female team is going, you have to follow the players on Twitter and read their tweets so you can know how they were doing.
I think that this is something that we were talking about at the beginning, that we have like this huge separation between playing FIFA and being a gamer. Why do you think Argentina thinks those terms are so different?
Um, Here in Argentina, we love football. That's obvious. So FIFA and also PES, Pro Evolution Soccer, or eFootball nowadays, became a must in your video games library. So you buy your PlayStation or your Xbox, and you must have FIFA. You must. So when you are with friends, you can say, hey, let's play some FIFA, and you play some matches with your friends. No matter if you're a gamer or not, you probably have played FIFA or will someday.
Yes, we also have like combos whenever you buy certain types of consoles. You have
Yeah.
the PlayStation 4 with FIFA of that year, which is I don't know if that's an international phenomenon, but as you said, it's must in the library. In fact, it must be the first game you own physically, because I don't remember if you I don't remember people having different editions of FIFA in a digital form, for example.
Yeah,
It's like,
maybe, for example, nowadays you can buy FIFA 22, but probably some of your friends or my friends still they are still playing FIFA 19 or
oh,
FIFA 20. So um, I think that's the difference between gamer people and people who wants to play some matches in FIFA. If you are a true FIFA gamer, you are constantly buying the new FIFA edition. But if you are not, you can play with some old edition of FIFA, and there's not going to be a problem.
it's also related with the fact that you might not be as used to certain types of um, you know game options, or even the controller. And people that are not really used to gaming, they might find it like, hey, this is a different new a completely different game. I'm not really related with this. And this is a perfect segue actually of do you think that this video game in particular has opened the minds of the mainstream regarding gaming industry?
Yes, yes, of course. For example, my dad plays FIFA, and he's 60. So the mainstream knows about FIFA. Everyone knows that. if I give you my Xbox controller and say, let's play some FIFA, you know that there is a football match. So you know what you have to do. Maybe you need to know what any button you have to. Ah.
Yeah,
What button you have to push so you can score a goal, but you know what this is about. So mainstream knows about FIFA, everyone knows about FIFA, and in my case, when I want to play FIFA with some football players here in Argentina, I thought they will know how to play. There is no science in this game, so it will be easy to play with them.
it's like a common language, I
Yeah.
think, uh, which is pretty beautiful because, as you said, they might not have ever touched a video game, but they know the rules, which
Well,
is
people
lovely.
say that football is the universal language, like love.
I cannot compete with that. I think that they might be right. Even though I'm not like a big fan of football, I think that it's true that whenever you have a major tournament or a World Cup, everybody is watching it. Especially, of course, in the different countries where football is very popular. We're talking about football, soccer. I know that you work a lot with EA, and I don't know if you are able to talk about this, but do you know if they are carrying some type of different strategies so streamers get closer to physical football and to become, like this bridge between real football and FIFA?
Well, the game is constantly updating. There is a game mode called Ultimate Team where you can create your own club, choose your uniform. Every uniform is licensed and buy your own players. So, for example, the transfer market is constantly updating too. When Messi left Barcelona and joined Paris Saint-Germain, you were able to buy that new Messi version in the game. So you can now play with Messi uh, wearing his Paris Saint-Germain uniform, and it's updating, his card, because in Ultimate Team you can buy cards, that means players. There is a update where you can buy that Messi new version in the game. So yes, they are constantly um, watching real football, traditional football, so they can translate that in the game.
Which I think it's pretty fun because
Yeah.
if you're really updated with football news, then you have it reflected on a platform. And I think that you can carry those moments in your personal life. And
Yes, every player has like a level, a number from 50 to 100. So sometimes when that player plays very well in real life, they update his level in the game.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so you have many versions of every player, many cards that represents that player. For example, in UEFA Champions League. So when the player starts in the competition, he has, for example, level 90 and then 95. So he's up. He has an upgrade in the game.
Like you have the better version of
Yeah.
Messi. I don't know.
Yes.
Uh, that's from the side of collection. I think that's pretty interesting as well. Um, Tell me, which major teams in Argentina have people that compete professionally in FIFA, like an sport?
Where there are many football clubs in Argentina that have some players representing them on FIFA, especially in pro clubs mode, where you can see 11 players against another 11 players, like in real football. Every player use one player in the game. So it's like a real match, virtual match. Some of them are Independiente Esports, Racing Esports, San Lorenzo Esports, Huracán Esports, Estudiantes Esports. There are many clubs that have their own virtual team. Uh, and virtual players that represent this team in the game.
Are they usually young players or are
Yeah,
they like
yes.
20, 30?
No. From 16 to 29. Um, yes, and they are the most good players. No, the best players are younger, the young
Which is
ones.
pretty strange. It might be as um I don't know. I really need your input here because I think that it might be the about how we started approaching esports, because I don't know, there are lots of people that they are in their 30s or 40s that have l- played since forever, and then you have younger people being into esports. Do you think that that has a relation?
Yeah, I think that many people, for example, me, I'm 28. So when I started playing FIFA, it wasn't the same FIFA as it is now. You play different. It's a new console. Now we are playing in PlayStation 5. I started playing in PlayStation 2. So there's a big difference between how I learned to play FIFA and how younger people learn to play FIFA. So I think they are most uh, they got used to easily than I, because when I play FIFA, it was a totally different game.
They are like trained differently for the latest update, which makes sense, of course. But again, I think this is a perfect segue to think about or to ask you about what type of training does FIFA esport players have as professional athletes?
Well, it depends on the team, but generally, like in every sport, you need some long hours of game training and then physical training too at the gym, and you have to be healthy, and you spend like a lot of hours playing, so you have to be, and you have to have a healthy life too, because many of the players are really young, so they need to keep studying, keep going to school, keep training this game, keep competing in every competition. So uh, it depends really on the team, but generally long hours of training with the game and physical training at the gym too.
I am aware that there are some women, well, girls, they are younger girls that are into esports, into being a professional esport in FIFA. I think that there's a girl playing for Argentinos Juniors, if I'm not wrong. Are
Yes.
they mixed uh, teams, or there are like female leagues of FIFA as a video game, and then a male league?
Well, there are some girls that compete in Pro Evolution or eFootball. That's the opposite of FIFA, but it's the same. It's a football game. Um, but unfortunately, in FIFA, there is no female team or female player or female pro player. Uh, I hope that in the next few years we can see that change. For example, nowadays in Spain, every esport team has a women player in their rosters. But here in Argentina, we don't see women very often. Um, so there is no female league either, because there are no teams with female representation or female players. That's something we need to improve for the next years.
Yeah, that's true. That's something that we're really working hard in Women in Games Argentina and lots of communities, because there might be players, female players, that want to have a career in esports, and they don't because they might not see themselves as players.
Yeah.
Of course, along other things that we already know about being a female gamer.
Well, if you want to be a FIFA pro player and compete in FIFA's tournaments, you need to be on the top 100 best players in the world. So you can picture that boys are playing FIFA since they were born, and girls don't. So it's very difficult to a woman to have the same level as a man that is playing FIFA from a long time ago. So for women, it's very difficult to reach that top 100 best players in the world. We need associations and teams to invest in female talent so they can grow and we can have more and more players, and in that quantity we can find quality.
Yeah, that's true. Because um, I don't really remember, well, from my generation, a girl or a woman that has been gifted whenever she was young, video game console with FIFA. And her parents saying, "Okay, let's play football here
Yeah.
inside a video game." It was always you have to play video games. You can play different types of video game, of course, but it was very weird to see somebody giving them sports video games. So yeah, I think it's time for a change there. What do you think, or do you know what type of changes FIFA in particular has been making to start implementing different female teams in real life into their gameplay?
Yes, I worked a lot with EA for these kind of things. In 2016, FIFA added some female national teams to the game. Then in 2019, they added DLC about the Female World Cup, where you can play that tournament with every team that was participating in it. In FIFA 21, they had the possibility to create a female coach, and now for FIFA 22, they are going to add the possibility to create your own female player to play a pro clubs mode. That mode where you play 11 players against 11 players. Now you will uh, have the possibility to create your own female player, and the matches will have male players and female players mixed.
Oh, that would be, well, that's lovely. I don't know if that's for the
Yeah.
2021 edition or
No,
2022.
22 now. There is no FIFA 22 yet, but you can buy the pre-sale. Um,
Are you under any NDA that you don't have to talk about?
no, not anymore.
Great.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Yeah, that's some news that I tweeted about some months ago. They allowed me to tell you this, so there's no problem. And that's an idea I proposed them last year when we talked about FIFA 20 feedback. I told why we can't create female players for pro clubs. And they say, okay, we'll see what we can do. And now for FIFA 22 is real. It's happening.
Oh, I think that would be great because it also, like, I'm not a FIFA player. I don't know if you have noticed for my many questions, but I think that's a very interesting proposal. To say, okay, let's play like a female player. Of course, I know that it might not be the same perspective as a female player because we know that we have different kind of struggles. But in this fantasy of a video game, we can start playing as equals, which would be, great.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that I can tell you, hey, let's play FIFA, and you can create your own female player. That's a way to uh, have your attention. So you can say, okay, I can uh, be myself in this game. I can make a player that looks like me.
Yeah, I think that's great because we have we know that we can spend hours in personalization of characters, and that also it might not be the main part of the video game, but as you said, it's something that grabs the attention of people. Let me ask you one last question. Let's say we live in a ideal world where female players can be professional in FIFA.
Yeah.
What would be their requirements to do so?
Well, they need to be really good players. I think that what you're saying, it mostly depends on the esports club and associations. We need more representation to encourage girls to play and compete in this game. That's first. Secondly, for this to happen, we need esports clubs, brands, associations to support women for playing FIFA or any esport, even though there might be a gap between the male and female performance due to the lack of opportunities we've been living all these years. I think there is not a single factor of this lack of opportunities, but they are mostly related to gender roles, wage gap, and lack of representation. So I think we need more representation. So then we can be more girls playing FIFA, and then more girls com- playing professional FIFA.
Which would be great because then you have like a greater game and a greater scene. And I think that it might not be as difficult for the mainstream to understand that you're a professional player inside FIFA, but in a video game, because everyone will be doing it. So, Carolo, sadly, we're not going to have questions here, but you can follow Carolo in where can we follow you?
You can follow me on social media and here or here, I don't know. You somewhere here or here or here.
And you can ask her any other type of questions about FIFA, LGBT representation in video games, and other lots of things about gaming, which is fabulous. Thank you, Carlos, so much for participating in this awesome keynote. And that's all we have time for, but thank you for coming up to our session. We hope you stay tuned for the talks coming up. Bye. Of course, I'm muted. Thank you for staying for this keynote. I'm very glad that we can do it in English and start talking about female representation inside FIFA. Even though we might not like it or we are not FIFA players, it's very important to recognize that football it's an important part of the Argentinian culture. So video games are also an cultural object, and the relationship between football and video games, it's very important for people to start to understand the importance of video games. It's a beautiful segue to start talking about gaming and to start normalizing video games as an not so strange activity. So don't go anywhere. Thank you for all your support in the chat. We are going to start with our next talk in around 1 or 2 minutes. So again, don't go anywhere. We are going to be right back. And of course, I was pouring my heart out and I was muted. That is beautiful. That is something quite classic that happened. But I was welcoming you in this beautiful event that we are hosting here in Women in Games. I'm not muted right now, right? Um, so I was welcoming you. I hope if you're in Argentina that you're having a swell afternoon and that you're having a nice and pretty tranquil lunch. Here in this event, we had Carolo Vasquez talking about FIFA and how is that the bridge that connects video games and reality here in Argentina. Not because we just filter reality through football, but it's because football it's a very important cultural movement here and in lots of Latin American countries. So whenever people or the mainstream play, they generally do so through FIFA because it's basic understanding. I think that Carolo said it's like love, it's an international language, which is true. And I think that it's very important to not disregard the importance of sports games because through them we can tell the general public that these experiences, these awesome narratives are available even though if you don't have the latest computer or you are not pro gamer, you can do it as well. And I think that it makes the experience a little bit less scary. Thank you in the comments. I was saying hi to everybody, and thank you to be here. This is a very emotional experience for me. I have to repeat that, which is a little bit nerve wracking, but I haven't spoken in English ever since my mother passed. She was from California, and we always talk in English. So this is my first time, and when I hear myself, I cringe a little bit. But I think that this is very important for me to tell you all because it's my way of thanking you, thanking Women in Games Argentina and Women in Games Shay um, to make me your hostess for today because I think it's important for us to show our vulnerable side. We are very used to people that are in front of the camera uh, to be treated as cardboard figurines. We know that because of the latest things that were happening with hate rates. People are not really being able to understand that there is a person behind the screen. This is my little way of showing myself and showing that it is important to understand that every person that is behind the camera has feelings and has a background story and has experience that we need to embrace and respect. So this is something very related to our next panel that I'm going to be part of. And luckily, I'm not going to be alone. We are going to talk about gaming journalism, the monopoly of the male perspective in communication. I have awesome partners here, like Agustin Ahmed. Hello, Agus. Are you there?
Hey there. Hello, everybody.
Oh,
Hi,
awesome
Steph.
background.
Thank you. This is
I love
my
that.
home office.
It's lovely. I also love your beautiful Asuka hairstyle. Like in Evangelion. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
seen it.
I have her Funko over here. That's
Yeah, of course.
Asuka.
That's the way. Those are the players I like to talk with. And speaking of, we have Makayaneli here. Hi,
Hi, hello
Maka.
everyone. How you doing?
I think you know
Hello.
a thing or two about pop culture and anime, right?
I do, but not as much as you two. I definitely
Oh,
haven't watched Evangelion yet, so
No,
oh,
that's
you
don't
new.
need
worry.
to do that.
It's on Netflix. You
Yes,
can
I
watch it
will.
nonstop. But
I will do it.
yeah, since we are all well, the drinking age here in Argentina, it's from 18. So you can watch it with something, a fernet or something
I think I will need
to the moon.
some alcohol to be able to watch it.
Uh,
As it was intended for,
Yeah.
from the creator. Um, so remember that we're going to we're going to restream this talk with subtitles if you're not able to understand in English, or if you're not able to understand my English, because I know that these women are very talented. And we have a subject here. We have a subject that we are surely asked whenever we are being interviewed, and whenever we are writing articles or making podcasts, that where are the females? Where are women in technology? Where are them in video games? Why do women have like such a hard time to work as a video game journalist?
Mhm.
Well, we can kickstart this with an example made by UNESCO. It was a survey for the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women in 2020. It might be a little bit not updated as I would like, because the pandemic has fast forward lots of different interactions in the
Mhm.
internet. But the result of this survey was that 73 of women journalists participating in this study showed that they have experienced online violence because of their work, including threats of physical and sexual violence and digital security attacks. And 20% of those women, we're talking about general journalists, say that they have been abused and attacked offline because of whatever people were saying about them online. And this is something we need to address,
Mhm.
because male journalists are not as affected, not emotionally, of course, but are not as targeted as women whenever they are making public their work. And let's think, I always like to say that video games are an cultural object, and they just reflect the reality of our society. So this is very helpful for us to illustrate that this is happening in general media, in general topics. It's, I think, only logical that it also reflects what happens in video games.
Mhm.
So I'm here with both of you. First of all, yes, I have introduced you, but could you tell me since when you started being a gaming journalist? We can start with Aus.
well, I started writing about games about 6 years ago, or seven maybe. I was just starting my career as a journalist, and gaming was like my passion. So I said, why not we make both, we join both, and then it's when I started. Yeah.
Like a natural connection.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I wanted to do what I liked, and this was the topic I knew the most. So as a freelance, I needed to start with something, and this was the file I felt more comfortable with.
Well, I once had an older. Uh, it was not a mentor, but it was an older journalist, male journalist, that told me when you start working, you have to start working and discovering stories around your blog, for example,
Mhm.
because I think it's common in our area of work for people to say, "I want to be the next person that releases, I don't know, some type of gate."
Mhm.
And it might be difficult, it might be impossible, but it also might be closer than you expect. And with that note, we have Maka. Tell me, when did you start
Uh,
being a journalist?
I'm the newbie here. I started last year communicating about video games. I come from another type of communication that is like books and movies and cinema. And I was always a gamer, but I never had the guts to start talking about video games because, well, we all know women in video games are, it's kind of a difficult topic. I've never had someone to talk about video games, and during the pandemic I found myself playing a lot of games and wanting to talk about them with other people, and I connected with a lot of friends, and I've started my own like outlet with some friends, and that's how I started. I'm a newbie. Hi. But I've been communicating about art and culture since like 2013.
Well, it's not unrelated. I think
Mm-hmm.
you need to have like a strong pop culture background to
Mm-hmm.
really be able to perform as a game journalist, because it's so mixed with different kind of art that
Yes.
if you are just thinking like inside a box
Mm-hmm.
and thinking about the technical aspects, you're not really reviewing the whole
Mm-hmm.
perspective, which I think it might be one of the problems of game journalism. um, but well, uh, we also have lots of research and lots of service
Yes.
trying to answer this question that where are all female gamers, where are
Mm-hmm.
all the LGBTQ plus gamers, and where are journalists that represent this situation. It's a little bit ridiculous, but yes, they're always asking that. So I don't know. Maybe Maka, do you have some data about this?
Yes, of course. Thanks to Nivea, they made a study, a research about gamer women, and they surveyed I don't know how many women, but the data shows that 46% of women had received misogynistic comments while playing video games. So mm, less than half of women all the time they play have received misogynistic comments. 36% of them have been harassed while playing video games. 35.3% of them declare that there is a stereotype of gamer women that we all know about. And 24% of women have received insults and mistreatment. And finally, 17% of them say that other players don't want to play with them because of their gender. So we are not only being harassed and mistreated, but we are ostracized and left out of video games. So if we cannot begin to play with other people, how can we then be journalists if we cannot be gamers?
Yeah, you cannot start the experience. In fact, this reminds me of something that happened in 2019 with
Mm-hmm.
the famous streamer Ninja, which refuses to. Well, I think he still refuses to play with female streamers because he's worried about what people might say about their relationship, which is a little bit, well, not a little bit, but it is disrespectful, because why people won't assume anything about other streamers that he plays, or
Mm-hmm.
why always female. He might not be uh I don't know, not able,
He
but
might
he
have
might.
a relationship with the male players he plays with.
Exactly. Yeah, and I
Why
think that
not?
he was worried. I don't know, it was like kind of a high school situation. I'm not
Yeah.
going to talk with girls because they have, well, I don't know, people might think, I don't know, anything. It's like a very basic way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And and I don't think this is particularly aggressive. I don't think that he intended to be misogynistic, but
Mm-hmm.
it also makes the room for people to say, yeah, you're right,
Yeah.
we just need to not include female gamers.
It perpetuates the idea that women cause trouble if you are like around them or if you are related to them in any shape or form.
Yeah, and we know that it's a very an awful stereotype that if you have an office full of men and you add a woman, it's going to be trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
it's a
they are going to
very,
start to complain. You cannot say certain kind of jokes, and the environment of bro culture like kind of breaks.
of course, and if there's two women, well, they're going to start competing. That is a very old way of thinking, but it's also something that it's still on our reality, and we need to fight
Yes.
to destroy this type of
Mm-hmm.
stereotypes. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, Mac, if you have any data about this, about
Of course, I forgot to mention that even though women are ostracized from video games, 50% of women from casual players are women. So we're still there. But the data shows that only 1 out of 10 women are pro players. So they have a hard time um, getting into professional video games because there is that is a male dominated field, pro playing. And more data shows in a Reach 3 Insight survey that, of course, as we know from the other surveys, women play the same games as men and play the same amount as men's. 88% of women surveyed that they play competitive style video games. 70% of them like action and survival style video games. 66% of women play shooters, FPS, and 70% of women responded that they deal with at least frustration while playing while gaming because of their gender, and 59, excuse me, percent of women said that they use a non-gender or male identity to play online to avoid conflict with other players.
I think this is awful because we are all related to these stats.
Mm-hmm,
I cannot,
Yeah.
as a journalist, I cannot say, yeah, I heard that some women don't have this problem.
mm-hmm,
I think it's a very real situation for all to have. And it's also, I think, a reflection of people saying, okay, but this amount of women are not specialized in
mm-hmm,
games or are not pro players, but you see these facts and you know that this is because women are being like pushed to not show their gender, to not show
mm-hmm,
themselves. I don't
mm-hmm,
know what you think, Aus, about this situation.
I feel so related with this. I have suffered from most of the topics Maka said. And is this like image of women only play soft games?
mm-hmm,
Women don't play shooters or sports games, and it's kind of lame, you know. There are a lot of women which are good players. I don't know, of Call of Duty or LOL or whatever, and they don't have that space. If they open up their mic, they probably get harassed or
mm-hmm.
laughed at or bullied, and that's so sad. I was there myself when playing CS back in, I don't know, 2010, 2009. I don't want any girl now in 2021 to be on to feel the way I felt back then.
Mm-hmm. But it's so hard to engage in this kind of situations. Like, how do you deal with 5 people calling you names and you quit gaming? You don't want to play anymore. So they push you aside and make you not want to play video games. So I've seen lots of people that love competitive video games leave the scene because they cannot deal with the pressure that other people put on them just because they're women. And they are really good players. It's not that they're
Yes,
bad or anything.
I think it's like a uh, natural progression. You
Mm-hmm.
first start trying to make yourself not as visible. You
Mm-hmm.
start using different type of names. You start not using voice chat,
Mm-hmm.
and then, for example, in in games that require for you to communicate with teams, you start not being there. So the next step is, okay, I will stop gaming, because
Mm-hmm.
why I should be having this pretty bad time when I need to relax. And
Mm-hmm.
we're not talking about professionals here. We're talking about uh, people that just want to play and just
Yeah.
want to be part of this world. We have a survey here in Argentina from la Asociación de Videojuegos de Argentina, that even though they couldn't survey lots of studios, what they could get is that only 6% of women are in important charges. They have important responsibilities, and only 13% of them are in a formal type of contract. And I think that even salaries, that just 8% of STEM professionals are female. And
Mm-hmm.
again, this is a reflection of a female not really encountering this space uh, in something that it's not science, of course, but it is as natural as movies and as animation, as and any type of cultural branch. And again, we are in 2021. We cannot
Mm-hmm.
let this happen. We have to start here. Somebody comment. We have to start as journalists asking questions about not just what happened with all the women, but
Mm-hmm.
what is really happening in their situations.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to, I'm going to be off script right now. I'm sorry, I was, but if you have to make an interview with a female player, what are the main questions you think that you needed to ask?
How you feel? Have you been harassed anytime?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you
Was
been
Yeah.
it hard?
Is
Was
it
it
hard
hard
to read the
to?
comments on the chat? How you face them? It's probably on that. More than, oh, which character do you like playing with?
Mm-hmm.
The first question I think about is like, are you okay? Are you doing well?
Yeah, the first question that comes to mind is how are you doing in this environment as a woman? How did you deal?
And you know that this is so very logical, because this is the part of the news that people are reading and consuming, but it takes
Yes.
space from the other important questions, as how do you play, what type of
Mm-hmm.
characters, what are your strategies, things that pro players, for example, or every gamer usually answers. What type of
Mm-hmm.
games do you play? Not just assuming, oh, of course you play Candy Crush. Yeah, so what? Start talking about, okay, what's your passion,
Mm-hmm.
uh what is
Yeah,
your connection with this type of
What do you
games,
want
for
to
example.
achieve in this scene?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that because of this male perspective in journalism,
Mm-hmm.
eh, even if it comes from a good intention, it ends with the same old gatekeeping. Now we're
Mm-hmm.
going to ask every woman these type of questions, not
Yes.
related
yeah.
to the game. Um,
It's sad to see that we always like appear as the victims and
Yes.
not as pro players or female gaming journalists. It's
You're
like
not a professional. You're just
yeah,
a woman.
you're just a woman and you are a victim of male comments.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want that anymore. If we are speaking up right now, if we are here speaking about this, it's because we don't want to be victims and we don't want more victims in this
Mm-mm.
file.
No.
Okay.
Yay.
Yay, we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
Okay.
So we were talking about female gaming journalism in Argentina, I think.
There's a topic I want to talk about that is positive examples and female representation, because I think it's very important right now to speak up about this. When I remember my childhood, and I think I'm speaking for most of the women that are watching us right now. When I remember which was the female representation of uh, women in gaming journalism, I remember Natalia Dim in
Yes.
Nivel X. Here in
Mm-hmm.
Argentina was very popular TV
Mm-hmm.
show.
For
And
children.
yeah, and Natalia was the closest representation of a normal gamer that we had
Mm-hmm.
back then. She was lucky enough to have the chance to make decisions and write her own columns about gaming. But she was like almost the only one in this file.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the show ended in 2006,
Mm-hmm.
and then she left her career on TV. So between 2006 and almost now, we didn't have a real representation of how a female gamer looked like. Um, we grew up with this like imaginary stereotype of a female gamer with a voluptuous body and
Yes.
looking like a model
Mm-hmm.
over
What we
and
know,
yeah,
what we know now as an e-girl or something like that.
yeah. um so we grew up with this image that gaming was only for men,
Mm-hmm.
that women didn't have that space unless they looked like a model.
Mm-hmm.
um Around 2010, maybe around that time, there was a famous magazine. I'm not going to name because it still exists. um, Inside this magazine, we clearly find sections that did nothing but to push these ideas of women don't play games. One of these sections was La Chica I, or the I Girl. This was a column that showed the image of a model, a promotional model, um, a representation representing with what was like a gamer girl stereotype, and maybe there was like a note or a column about some game on the side,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing was to show off that female body that has nothing to do with any game, and probably the model has nothing to do with gaming neither.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, then there was this other section on the same magazine. It was published the first time in 2011, and the section was called Esto no es para mí, or This is not for me. Um, this column was written by one of the journalist's wife, and the column was about how bad she felt because her husband was a gamer, and her little 7 years old daughter was also getting close to video game. She complained that her daughter looked like her physically, but had the same hobby as her father, and that was her death sentence.
Which is awful for women.
This was published in a gaming magazine. What were they expecting with these kind of comments?
A
Publishing
woman,
video,
an old woman writing about hating the fact that her husband and her little
her little
girl
daughter. Yeah.
like
Oh no,
games.
my princess is is,
My
is
princess is liking
gamer.
video games.
Oh
What will
no.
I do now?
Eh, I don't know what were they expecting with this kind of column. Like, you are trying to give us the idea that women don't play video games. Did you try to be funny? Was that
sounds
the
sounds like they try to be ironic or funny,
uh,
but it doesn't come through.
no,
It's
it's
weird.
yeah, like we are female, we like gaming, we are passionate about technology. So what's that? So you're going to push me away because, oh, I'm a software
Hmm.
engineer student, Len. Oh no, you're not a female. Women
and
don't do that.
and what would this create to a male like audience reading this article? Like, yeah, this woman is like my mom. She likes that I spend 5 hours playing video games. It's kind of weird. It doesn't have a point as an environment, as a gaming environment. Doesn't have any point, in my opinion, at
No.
least.
She's back.
Haha! Here I
Oh,
am
she's
again.
Ah,
back.
Yeah.
he's back.
Yay.
Let's go.
Yeah. So what were we talking about?
We were
Talking about representation and those positive examples we didn't grow up with.
Oh, okay. So we were talking about. Have we talked about Natalia Dim?
Yeah,
yes, we
we
have.
had.
But if you want to comment on her,
I would like to comment what happened around 2010. Did we just said that? Did we describe what
we
happened?
talk, yeah, we talk about
Yeah.
the e girl and
The
the
girl
I girl,
and this is not for me. We were closing that topic.
Oh yeah, this is not for me. I think it's a infamous, uh, infamous column. I just wanted to comment that I don't really think that this, well, not from the part of the I girl, because we have lots of current examples
Mhm.
in media of people putting models showing lots of things. So I cannot really say anything about that, anything positive at least. just to price the work of the models.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that in general, it might not have been, for example, this is not for me, it might not have been the point to attack women or something like that, just to make
Mm-hmm.
a funny column. The thing is, when you don't have representation in media of gaming, of women playing games, girl playing games, or women journalists, then the only representation you have it's somebody that doesn't like playing video games,
Yes.
Yes.
and I think
And
it's
yeah,
something awful.
if we had both perspective, like a column from a gamer girl and a column from women that don't play and think
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I don't know, weird or are out of their knowledge, it's okay. But in this case, we are uh, talking about a magazine which only represented this kind of women who don't play.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we are talking about this right now.
These are
Eh,
the first examples of journalisms, women journalists in video games that we could find.
Yes, because it's not so very new. We have a gaming history of around 30 years here
Mm-hmm.
as an industry in Argentina, but we also know that media, niche media and specialized media has been a male-dominated field. I think right now we're starting to gather, or let's say, let's put it in another way. We're starting to recognize that there are others, female journalists in the same area, because we didn't have like middle point where we can
Mm-hmm.
talk and we can say, "Hey, you're doing the same thing as me," which it sounds crazy, but it really isn't. When you have a field that it's dominated by a male perspective and male colleagues, you get lost in
Mm-hmm.
that in that amount of people.
Yes.
And that's why we really need to bring these topics and to address them and to have safe spaces for people to talk. That's why Women in Games Argentina always says and describes this is a safe place for every gamer, every
Mm-hmm.
professional, every part of the video game industry to speak and to relate and to say their experiences, positives or negatives, or really to just, I don't know, post a picture of a cat and to be themselves. Because this way we can start meeting and relating our histories. I think
Yes.
that is a slow but an effective solution of trying to uh, share women perspective in journalism and in the whole field of video games. And I'm sorry, I would like to make this talk longer and forever because I really like it, and I wasn't there for the most part because internet, but I just wanted to wrap this up with a very interesting data that it's that the first women journalist uh, was published under the name of her husband. It was around the 1830s, and when you try to look for the first male journalist, you cannot find any clues because it's just called journalism.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's pretty frustrating.
Yes.
It makes seems that journalism has been, and it might be always, something for male and not for any other type of gender. But I think that we're trying to break those standards a little bit slowly.
Yes, we are, and this is true for all parts of gaming industry, like making video games, like women making video games. It's sorry.
We're-
I'm trying to find my words, but I can't. Um, it's the same for any women in this industry. Trying to find your place is not easy, and it's always will be male dominated. but we need to stay strong and stay together for us to replicate our voices and make space for us,
especially in
Yes.
journalism, because that's
especially in
where
journalism.
we
Yes.
Yeah.
specialize in communication. I'm not going to expect
Mm-hmm.
that a developer knows how
No.
to write about their experiences because they are not specialized in communication.
Of
Mm-hmm.
course.
So it's
Of
very
course.
important to think about this side, this area. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have any final words, a conclusion, Agus? I'm not going to kill
Eh,
you. They are not final words. It's just
okay, okay. No, I just wanted to add that we need to like speak up a bit more about representation. We need to give girls a safe space and also a real image of how women in games look like. So they can relate to them and say, "Hey, I want to be like her," and she's a normal person, not a model, and not the only male, but only a men image. So we need to speak up a bit more and talk about this topic a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
of course. In fact, there is something that we were talking in the backstage, we can say, when we were preparing this, that you might have lots of stereotypes of
Mm-hmm.
male gamers, but you just have one type, one
Mm-hmm.
stereotype, or maybe two stereotypes of female gamers. So whenever people try to, or even mainstream, try to understand what it's journalism and gaming and video games about, they are not going to refer to every player, but the representation it's quite small when you're or LGBTQ plus or you're female. It's a very small representation, and this is something that we need to address.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being here. Where can we follow you and uh, to get to know your work? Tell me your social media, please.
Okay, you can find me on Twitter as It's Not Necessary or Agus Ahmed, and also on Instagram as Agus Ahmed. There you have the links to all my social media.
Thank you, Aus. And Maka?
And you can find me at Maca Chanelli, which is kind of hard to write.
You
So
can read it like down here.
Down
yeah,
there,
I
yeah.
will I will write it. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter at Maca Chanelli, and all the things that I'll do there. Twitter, yeah, all the things that I do are on Twitter. So
Yeah.
yeah,
We're
thank you,
going to
Steph.
publish those in our Women in Games media and in our Women in Games social media. My name is Stephanie Zuccarelli. You can find me at Z de Zucca, Zeta de Zucca. Uh, Thank you again for your participation in this panel, and thank you everyone that is watching. We're going to upload this, and we're going to give you a heads up for us to comment and tell you. Why not for you to tell us how do you think that we can solve this problem of female that we need more female representation in media. So thank
Hmm.
you again, and bye.
Bye.
Bye.